you want to dramatically move your team forward this year, you must establish trust. Your team members need trust to thrive. In the book, The Speed of Trust, Covey suggests that a lack of trust will slow progress, but when trust is built, it will accelerate everything. What is trust? Ultimately, trust is confidence. Think about this. Have you ever bought something from an unfamiliar website? If you're like me, the first thing you did was you start fact checking, reading reviews, checking on shipping times, and just verifying that the website is credible. Think about customers who use Amazon. They actually pay money to buy things faster from them. It's called Prime. All they do is click one button and have the confidence that the items will arrive safely. Why do people purchase so freely from Amazon? Well, it's for one reason that we don't often think about a lot, but it's because trust has been established. As leaders, you must extend trust. When people experience trust, it provides a freedom and a context for them to perform, to excel, and to go to new levels. To start extending more trust, start by sharing responsibility incrementally. Let me explain a brief story. A few years ago, I was a pastor, and a lady at our church was recommended to help lead outreach efforts. The first event that I asked her to be involved in, I really didn't know what to expect. I mean, sure, we had talked about what we wanted to do at this outreach, but it was a brand new working relationship. But sure enough, the day of the event, when we were packing everything up, it seemed like she had thought of everything. Everything was covered. And so a layer of trust was established. Each event that we did together evoked more trust, all the way up to this big community-wide Easter egg hunt that we were going to do. This event was a tipping point. While we were loading vehicles with everything that we were going to need for this citywide Easter egg hunt, she looked at me and said, "Can you grab that white chair?" Now, in my mind, I'm thinking, why do we need this single white chair? It seemed like a strange request to me. The chair was not on our list of items to load up, and I really didn't want our volunteers sitting at the booth. I preferred for them to stand and engage with the crowd. Nevertheless, I loaded the chair and didn't say anything. 20 minutes into the event, the Easter Bunny came walking across the grass, headed toward the pavilion where our booth and tent was stationed, and I watched as she approached the city worker that was assisting the Easter Bunny and listened as she invited them to use our white chair that was under our tent so that the Easter Bunny could sit to take pictures with the kids. At this point, in my estimation, she was a genius. Most of the crowd that had children came to our booth to take a picture with the Easter Bunny, which allowed us to have a lot of great conversations with them. I learned to trust her even more through this experience. In fact, I even began to encourage her ideas and would give way to her opinions and input because I trusted her. If you're a leader looking to extend more trust, here's a few tips. Be on the lookout for indicators of competency in areas for you to trust. Identify these areas of competency and then begin extending more responsibility. You can start small. Observe how the trust is used and then measure more out in proportion to the responsibility. The second thing your team members need to thrive is clarity. Craig Rochelle explains two dynamics that exist related to trust and clarity. He says that if you provide clarity without trust, you'll create an environment of fear. You can probably think of times where the leader is continually pulling away authority from the one that has been entrusted because there's a lack of trust. And what leaders need to understand is that this creates robots instead of more leaders. The other dynamic is when you give trust without clarity. Doing this will establish an environment of disappointment. Without direction, there will be unfulfilled expectations and both parties will become upset and confused. To provide clarity to your team, you first need to make sure that you understand what you're asking of those you're leading. Consider, can I clearly and simply communicate exactly what I want? Once you understand something, you should be able to simplify it for someone else. The goal is to give clear and concise expectations. To create clarity for your team, here's a few tips. Identify what you need. Clarify why it matters. Communicate how it relates to the vision. Write down the expectations. Have a discussion with those that you're entrusting responsibility to ensure that there is understanding. Think about most of the fights or areas of frustrations that you've experienced. What does it come down to? More than likely, it was a misunderstanding or miscommunication. Your team needs clarity in order to hit objectives and to stay connected to the mission. It's easy to assume that everyone is on the same page and understands what is expected. However, that is not always the case. And that's why this next element is equally important too. Your team members need feedback and input to thrive. Creating a culture of feedback can revolutionize the effectiveness of your team. As a leader, you must model receiving feedback to begin infusing a desire from your team members to ask for it as well. Constructive feedback is vital to a team's ongoing development. It clarifies expectations and helps people to learn from their mistakes, build confidence, and to get better. Constructive feedback that takes into consideration a team member's perspective and the goals that they were seeking to achieve is one of the best things that you can provide for your team. When delivered properly, it can reinforce positive behavior, correct any negative performance, and ensure a strong culture remains within your team. There are a few real benefits when it comes to providing effective feedback. It reinforces values. It empowers team members. It prevents unnecessary surprises, and it assures alignment. And when should you give feedback? Well, sooner rather than later, regularly, when a team member models the values, when a team member strays from what you value. And how should you give feedback? By first seeking to understand where they're coming from, gaining perspective, understanding the goals, within the right setting, with the right motives, and by helping those that you're providing feedback to understand how and why their actions matter so much. Feedback must be welcomed in order for it to be beneficial. If giving and receiving feedback and input is not a norm within your team, this is detrimental. Growth will be stunted, culture will be dampened, and frustration will continue to rise. If you or someone on your team is closed-minded toward feedback, it could be an indicator of one or two things, or both, a lack of trust or a lack of security. However, these issues can be resolved over time if both parties are willing to work together. Take a moment and consider which of these elements may be most difficult for you. Take note and be intentional to ensure that your team members are receiving what they need. When leaders provide their teams with what they need, they will accomplish more than you've asked. Hey, let me know in the comments what else you believe helps teammates to thrive. And for more leadership help, check out the free guide to overcoming decision fatigue by using the link in the description. And if this video helped you, be sure to hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe.